challenges. So let's have this conversation on how to make the internet a safer space. And joining us in studio is Susan Sindani, the research analytics expert at the Epuka Ugaidi organization. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, we have the general statistics on the usage of internet in the country. As at last year, January, the country was at 42% of the entire population. That was around over 23 million Kenyans were actively using the internet. Where are we as a country when you compare with other regional countries? Are we leading? Are we among the leading countries that have adopted use of technology, or what should you say in that regard?
Thank you so much, Fiji, for that question. And before I can answer that question, maybe just to introduce what I do and in relation to online safety.
Yeah.
I work for an organization called Epuka Ugaidi, and we implement within counterterrorism through communication and influencing. And one of the platforms that we use mostly is online, targeting different audiences. And as Kenya, like you said, we stand at 42% of internet penetration, meaning that is the percentage of Kenyans that have access to the internet. And at 23 million, Kenyan users are online, and majority of them are young people, and majority of those young people are also women and girls. And I would say ranking regionally, we will be among the leading populations online, let's say in East Africa. And I will say that the internet has proven to be a really necessary evil. Let me say it's necessary evil because the internet is known for its good things. It's provided a platform for connectivity. People can communicate from different parts of the world. People can have access to information and materials and resources that can be useful in every aspect of life. And people can also creatively express themselves, especially when you look at the emerging digital platforms like TikTok, that is majorly focusing on creativity and encouraging critical thinking. So I will say the internet has proven to be an ally, but then at the same time, there are some precautionary measures that the world needs to be open to. The internet has been used, and I will talk in regards to violent extremism and peace and security. We have seen violent extremist groups exploiting the internet and targeting vulnerable groups of young people and children and even families to propagate their ideologies, radical ideologies about violence and justifying violent acts that go against human rights through the internet. And I would say that on 7th of this month was Safer Internet Day, and the theme for this year has been, let's have conversations about our life online. How can we make the internet safe for our children, for our young people, and even for ourselves? And how can we have these conversations? How can we know what is going on? And today I would specifically like to talk about how we can safeguard the internet against violating rights and harming vulnerable groups like children, young people, and women, and even the whole society at large, really.
And that's a good introduction of what we are having, the conversation we are having, because we've seen most people say, I am not on social media. I cannot get back to social media. I cannot even, there are those who were once in social media, but they had to pull down their accounts. And there are those that they have heard stories about the internet and they do not want to get back there. So that means that it's bringing a lot of harm than good to most people. So let's now get to that conversation. What is apart from the violent extremism, of course, what is the other impact, the impact of the internet, the negative impact of the internet, so that when we are aware of it, then we can address and how do we make it a safer space? Because again, it's presented good opportunities, job opportunities, creativity, and what you have highlighted.
So I would say there are certain groups of people and individuals that have decided to use the internet for wrong purposes. They use the internet to target people through cyberbullying. They use defamation. They spread false information, disinformation, and misinformation. And all of these acts are targeted towards harming people, but at the same time, for some weird reasons, those people want to benefit from that. So I would say that one of the major threats of the internet has been through cyberbullying. And people have targeted, let's say, children or young people through social grooming. Someone comes to your inbox and they start this really innocent and cordial conversation about normal things in life. And being vulnerable to that, someone starts falling prey of such conversations, and through social grooming and social engineering, someone gets to get personal information from someone, information that is very critical that can be used against them or even their immediate communities. There have been online games that have been known to target young children between the age of 12 to 15. And people have come through these online games because we know that nowadays children really like a lot of video games and playing online games. And you wouldn't be surprised to find a 6-year-old having a tablet or a phone or knowing something about the internet. And this is how these people are looking at. Okay, let's say as a community, we might not be vigilant, but then there are these people that have ulterior motives that are looking at the places where we seem to be lagging behind, and then they take advantage of that. They target our children through various platforms. They target young people, and they might start off as trustworthy people, but eventually they have an agenda that is against someone's safety that can endanger their lives and those of their communities. They can use the online to solicitize information about credit information about where you come from, and you might never know, maybe someone is trying to target you or someone through you. And through the internet, and not being vigilant and not being aware of exactly what or when you're being manipulated, that is how people have come to give out personal information in the name of all trying to stay up to date and stay relevant. But honestly, we need to be more vigilant about that.
Yeah, and apart from cyberbullying, we've seen cases where people open fake accounts and pose to be people who they are not. And there are also cases where you open a social media account and then it's hacked, okay? So what should these technological companies do to ensure that everybody that is on their space is safe?
Before I come to that question, let me just try to highlight on some of the ways in which violent extremist groups have used to recruit and radicalize people online. You find that
I think I'll come to that. No, yes, let's finish with that.
Yeah.
Let's address the safety as far as now the companies are concerned.
One thing I would like to highlight that I recently witnessed is that Facebook, for one, has this feature where you cannot just come across a story and then click on it and share without really reading, because there is a prompt that will come up and ask you, are you really sure that this is credible information that you're going to share? So I think companies like Meta, companies like Amazon, they have these regulations and safety features in place that is there to prevent spread of false information through misinformation and disinformation. And talking locally in Kenya, we have the Communications Authority, which has the mandate to safeguard and monitor online activities. And we also had an act. We have a Data Protection Act 2019 that is there to safeguard the privacy of people and ensure that the right to privacy is being safeguarded through data processing, data management, and data usage. Yeah. So those are just some of the acts and policies and regulations and frameworks that are in place. But majorly, one of the challenges that have been facing most Kenyans is they're not even aware that such regulations exist actually. And if they're aware, then they don't even know the details and how they can use such regulations to protect themselves. And by not being aware, they have found themselves even performing illegal acts without even knowing that this is actually illegal when it comes to data protection and online safety. So I will say, yeah, there are frameworks, yeah, there are systems are there, they are functional, yes, but when it comes to the operationalization and the level of awareness that normal users have, the 23 million Kenyans, it is quite lacking.
Yeah. And so finally, let's talk about the violent extremism, which you're so passionate about. How can we address that?
So first of all, violent extremism, the groups have evolved like everyone else in the world, and they have decided to take advantage of the online space. And by this, they go to social media, they use social media to recruit, they use the social media to spread their radical ideologies and propaganda. They use the social media to fundraise even from their supporters. They use internet to engage in illegal financial activities like fraud and cybercrime as a way to raise funds to fund their violent extremist acts. And also they use the internet to coordinate and communicate and plan attacks. And one of the ways they use is through an aspect called algorithm. So in algorithm, it is used to monitor the patterns and the behaviors and the language of online users. And so these people are using algorithms, and they're using machine learning, they're using natural language processing to put out their ideologies and to also target potential recruiters. And you have come to also witness that violent extremist groups have been known to have foreigners amongst them, and you wonder how they manage to actually recruit these people. One of the ways has been through the internet. Using targeted information, targeted content, they through these algorithms, they can be able to identify people that resonate with their violent extremist ideologies and their violent extremist messages. So once the algorithm identifies someone from any part of the world, then it gives these people a leeway to be able to tailor this information to fit your style of writing, your style of posting things, to fit what you might need. And that is how they subconsciously lead you into radicalization and recruitment. And before you know it, you might actually be performing illegal and terrorist acts without knowing, because of such features online. So that is why it is very, very important, honestly, for the whole world to be very vigilant when dealing with the internet. It might be good, but at the same time, it needs us to be extra careful.
And in 30 seconds, what can be done?
So what can be done from the community level, with the media, of course, as a primary actor, and the NGOs and the government and faith-based organizations? What we can do is we can start by creating more awareness on how someone can stay safe online. And one of these things is making sure that people know the privacy measures. People know that you cannot just come up with a weak password simply because you can guess your password, or your password is very easy to, let's say you're using your birthday, that would make it very easy for someone who is out to target you. Another aspect is when it comes to children and parents and guardians, let's be more aware of what our children are doing online. Let's monitor our online activities for our children. Let's have open conversations with children and even the young people about some of these dangers online. Let's not assume that because a child is under your roof, then they're safe. No, they might be very, very in danger. And because of a lack of knowledge, that is how they continue being targeted by such groups. So I will say vigilance is the key, and staying educated, informed. Don't just say because you're a parent or the digital era passed you. It did not pass you because you're in this current reality. So please, let's make sure that we stay educated and look out for everyone around us. Yeah.
Susan Sindani, thank you so much for your